Good evening, everyone, and thanks for joining us for the statewide presentation on teamwork and team play. My name is Dina Mayo, and I am the Director of Community Engagement with Girl Scouts of the Jersey Shore. All 4 New Jersey Girl Scout councils have come together to offer all of our volunteers these unique statewide presentations made possible through a grant from the Provident Bank Foundation, and we thank them for their generosity. Please note, tonight's presentation is being recorded. You can expect an email in the coming days with a presentation deck, the handouts, and directions on how to access the training, which will be added to our resources. I'm delighted to introduce our guest speaker. She is Kathleen Pearson, and she is the Director of Training and Partnerships for Team Life Incorporated in Colts Neck, New Jersey. Kathleen has a training background reaching back 39 years, and she is the certified low ropes team building facilitator for Project Adventure through Rutgers University. And an added bonus, Kathleen is a Girl Scout volunteer, bringing 34 years of experience as a troop leader and trainer for first aid and CPR and the outdoors. Without further ado, take it away, Kathleen.
I want to thank everybody for joining as well, just echoing what Dina said. It's really great to see everybody, well, hear everybody, well, at least be together on Zoom. This is going to be a unique training. When we originally wanted to do this training, we wanted to give you a lot of education, and at the same time, we wanted to have kids come out and present each of our activities for you. COVID-19 kind of put a little glitch in that problem. But what we're going to do is make a part A and a part B. So this part A is really going to be a knowledge part, giving you as much information as we can. And then later in the year, when we can all gather again, we'll do a part B where we can get the kids who actually show you some of these activities. So let's start and talk about a definition. So we want to talk about the definition of teamwork and team play. Both of these are extremely important. I see many Girl Scout meetings where individuals are just allowed to take playtime. All right, just go and play for the next 10, 15 minutes, which is great for the kids and they really enjoyed it. But it's really not productive. So as a leader, we can really engage our kids and take these Girl Scouts and make them really building them to the future by doing teamwork and team play. Teamwork really is a collaborative effort, and this effort is building our kids and moving them to a common goal in efficient and effective ways, where team play is more allowing these individuals to play, and at the same time, we're going to assist them in that play. There's a lot of good reasons to do team building. Team buildings help our youth learn about teamwork, cooperation, and communication. And at the same time, whether we're working with just our daughters or a group of girls all together, it's taking our girls and helping them kind of feel belong to the group, giving them the ability to learn more about themselves and others, maybe build some trust, cooperation, and working together in different ways. Now, we could talk about team building, but to start, in every team building program, every program in general I do something that starts by working on empowerment. So I like the superhero pose. I saw this years ago on a show called Grey's Anatomy, one of my favorite shows, as a matter of fact, where during a surgery, right before it starts, one of the person did this pose and had everybody in the group did the superhero pose. But it is a physical pose which has the superhero stand with their legs apart, their arms on their hips with their elbows bent, taking a deep breath. It's actually making you go into what's called an open posture. Open meaning inviting, closed meaning kind of stay out. When you keep this open posture, it really gives you some feeling of empowerment and making you feel better and feel stronger about what's going on. There are so many different research about this superhero pose, and it's amazing to me how many different ways people have researched the stance. And what the experts are telling us is that if people do this superhero type stance each day for a couple times or 2 minutes, they feel more powerful, and then they start acting that way. This pose really, it looks like this. It's pretty simple. Like I said, legs apart, hands on hips, and here's our Wonder Woman stance. So any of our superheroes are doing this stance, and we want our kids to be able to do these stances as well. So let's get the girls doing this. Over the years in my presentations, I've had every meeting start with this, end with this. As a matter of fact, on the right side of that PowerPoint page, you'll see a bunch of leaders. I went to an event in Aberdeen, Manawan, and boy, was I surprised, where not only were they doing the stance throughout their whole meetings and presentations, but they also wore their Girl Scout superhero shirt. So that was pretty cool. It was interesting to me that, oh, and forgive me for saying this, all people from corporate, I'm a volunteer so I can get away with it. But yes, we raise our hand, and when we raise our hand, we want all our girls to stay quiet. Well, in my troop meetings, and many of them that I've seen, the leaders will go into a superhero stance, and then all the girls start doing it and stay quiet, and that really quiets down the group. So it's a good way to do it as well. Now, there's three things I think of when I think of this superhero stance. I think of stand like a superhero, feel like a superhero, act like a superhero. Now, superhero has many different aspects. I'm not asking everybody to go out and save the world. What we really want everybody to do is feel empowered. So let's start off our day by doing that. Let's give it a try. So give me a minute. I'm going to adjust my table here, and I'm going to ask everybody in the group to stand up wherever you are. You don't need your cameras on. Just stand up in your room. So I'll give you a second to do that. All right, so now that you're standing up, I want you to take your legs, put them a little bit apart. I know you can't see that, but take your legs and put them a little bit apart. I'm gonna ask you to take your arms, put them on your hips, just your hands on your hips, just like you just saw Wonder Woman doing. Take your head slightly to the side and take a deep breath and just hold it in. Think about nothing except for that breath. And exhale. Let's do it one more time. Just take a breath, be in this stance. Think about that breath and exhale. Now, again, I start every meeting like this, and I started to go around and see different presentations that our girls are doing. I even saw somebody at school start one of their presentations at school right before they went up on stage. They did this. So I find it really helpful. I do it all the time. I start every day this way, and right before I start every presentation, I would do it. And I encourage everybody else to do that too. So thanks for doing that. You can sit back down. And while I'm fixing my camera and getting it back into place, what I'm going to do is ask Donna Turnich. Donna, can you come on? And if you could, would you please give these information on the benefits to our girls by doing team building? Donna?
Thank you, everybody. As a volunteer, I use team building in many ways, from our troop meetings with just a few girls to some of our larger events with more than 100 girls. We break up into different groups. Team building activities teach our girls valuable skills, whether it's simple team building techniques like learning each other's names while tossing a ball, or when we do more complicated ones that are on the challenge course way up in the air. Team building games can help girls get to know each other for an event or set the tone for a weekend. We use team building games to help the girls make new connections, make new friends, or friends with girls that are in other troops that they didn't know already. A girl may feel uncomfortable directly introducing themselves or starting a conversation with somebody they don't know. But when they focus on a game or a task or a skill, it provides the girls a fun opportunity to meet with and work with new people without any stress or pressure. Team building also can be an equalizer to strengths and weaknesses in a group. For example, if you have somebody who is afraid to speak, or you have somebody who always does all the speaking and leading, we have a whole bunch of team building activities that you can do and compete in a game without using any speaking at all, which allows everybody to succeed and to shine. But I think one of the most important things team building teaches is the girls a systematic way to look at a game or a task to develop key questions while having fun with their friends. They learn to ask themselves, how do we win this? What is our goal? They also learn what are the ways that we can complete this activity, whether it's a timed activity or something of that sort. Who will do which parts of the activity and which way is the best way to complete the activity. Once the girls complete the games or the tasks, the girls gain greater confidence in their ability. They use things like goal setting and problem solving methods to win the game, to complete the task, and to succeed. And these are all things that can translate into life skills. Even if the girls initially fail, they can keep trying different ways to make it work until they get it right. And that too also teaches them not to give up the first time and to keep trying and work together. They work together, and upon completion, they're proud of themselves, but they can even find different ways that they could have done it, or different ways they could have done it better next time. After we complete our activities, we always do a takeaway section. So the girls, with what are they taking away, or what have they learned? So in my experience, the girls have learned by doing. And the more they do, the more faith they gain in themselves. The more faith they gain in themselves, the more confidence they have. And this confidence and faith gives them an inner strength, which is one of the most valuable things that I think that they will keep with them for the rest of their lives. So thank you.
Donna, thank you so much. That was great. Exactly what I was hoping to get. If I can have Pat Keaney come on now, and Pat's going to talk to us a little bit about what are the benefits to our leaders, actually. Hey, Pat, are you there?
I'm here. Hi, thank you so much. My name's Pat Keaney, and I have been doing this kind of work for over 35 years with school groups and scout groups, as well as lots of adult groups. I've done challenges for corporate training and that sort of thing. And what I want to talk about is there's some obvious benefits for the girls, of course, but there's a lot of benefits to you for doing this. And first of all, there's teamwork, right? You're going to build yourself a more cohesive team. You're going to get the girls working together and all of that. That's kind of the obvious thing. But there's some other things, other benefits that maybe you don't think about. You might see some personalities emerge that you didn't really know about, that you didn't expect to see from the girls. Maybe it challenges some of your assumptions about them. You might have preconceived ideas about some of the girls and their behaviors or their abilities. Perhaps you have a girl that isn't very academically inclined, and you might not think, oh, she's not very bright or something like that. We hate to think that about a girl, but you might not see her that way. And in these sorts of activities, she might shine. She might surprise you. You might see something that you never expected. So it's really great to kind of put those assumptions aside and just watch as the leader as to what's going on and how the girls are interacting. You might see just the opposite. I'll tell you a quick story. One time I had a group and we were doing something called magic sticks, a quick little activity. And one of the girls just couldn't get it. She couldn't figure it out. And it was one of these things you had to kind of come to on your own. And she got very upset. And I felt terrible because I never want anyone to be upset or cry. But afterwards, the teacher came to me and said, that girl has never failed at anything. She's always the brightest one in her class. But she was so overthinking this activity. And it was very simple, like how many fingers am I holding up? She was so overthinking it that she couldn't get it. But it was actually a really great growth experience for her to fail, because we're all going to fail at some point. So that was her first time not being number one in the class or in the group. Other times you might see leaders emerge, and you might already have a preconceived notion about who the natural leader is in your group, right? Which girls have that charisma or that personality, or they're popular, or maybe they're just really loud and talk a lot. So they kind of come across as the leader. But just because they have that, just because they have that personality or that loud voice, doesn't necessarily mean that they have all the good ideas. And sometimes you'll see someone who's usually quiet in the background saying, I think we could try it this way, or we could do this. So you might see things emerge that you didn't expect from the girls. So that's a great thing. Also, if you keep doing this over time, as the girls grow and you come back to it, try it again and try new things with them. And you might see different things emerging. You know, what a girl did last year or 2 years ago, she's growing, she's changing, the dynamic is changing. So it's good to continue doing these sorts of activities. I don't mean do the same ones over and over, but there's plenty of new ones you can do. And come into it each time with a kind of a blank slate and a new idea and a positive attitude, and try to look at it in a new way and see what you come up with. So here on the screen, I'm not going to read that for you because you can read. So take just a moment to read that. And you'll get these slides later and you can return back to them and you can read all about the benefits. But I really highly recommend it for yourself and for the girls and any of your co-leaders or other people you work with. So thank you very much for having me here tonight. It was a pleasure to be here. And I'm going to send it back to Kathleen.
Thanks, Pat. That was great. I really appreciate your time this evening. So for our next part, what I want to do is talk about the girls themselves. So we've talked about what our girls, we perceive they get out of it. We talk about what the leaders perceive, or we perceive the leaders get out of it. What about the girls themselves? So I called one of the Girl Scouts that I've done in team building all the time, and this is Abby. Abby has been doing team building ever since Daisy's. Her troop of, I guess, 12 to 15 girls have been together from Daisy's all the way up to now they're cadets. So that's a little bit old of a uniform, but that was the cutest photo I can find of her. But the whole group, there's not one kid who have left. That troop continues over and over and over, but they're very active and they participate and they have really active meetings where everybody does anything. So team building is done each and every Girl Scout night. They do one activity. So I asked her how she feels about it. And these are exact quotes from her. She said, "I feel like I have a voice. After activity, the troop feels less cliquey. So girls are more of a team and work more together in different groups than the same groups hanging out together." She said she's less afraid of trying new things because the whole point of team building is to try, and everything's not going to be successful. You just try and try again. So during all her meetings and such and in life, she just is like, I'm going to keep trying because that's the way it is and it's fun to do so. She said it's okay sometimes to speak up and sometimes to listen. And I found that pretty profound for a young kid because right now she's only 13. She also said laughing with people is not laughing at them, which is pretty important. She works better as a team. She feels like she is more accepting of people's abilities. And she said they're just downright out fun. So that's a perspective of one of our girls. This Girl Scout and her troop just really love this team building. So now when you're ready to start your team building, you should consider 5 elements. With the elements itself, it's really how you act and the kind of way you have to present each of your activities that you do. First is you got to have effective communication. You so have to put out there what's important. You have to delegate. Once you put out the directions, you have to stay quiet. I see too many people running team building and kind of prompting people along the way. You have to really give them the ability to try it on their own before you give them some edges. If they look like they're starting to get too frustrating, that's when you give them some tips and get them going. Efficiency, you have to be efficient and help them become efficient in everything they do. You have to give them ideas when needed, but most of the time, let them get their own ideas. But mostly you have to support them. Supporting's the key. That's the key to team building, is just supporting it and letting it happen. For me, it's fun. It's one of the best things I do is I just sit there and watch these activities. Half the time, laughing hysterically because of how people react. And if I hadn't already done my master's and my thesis on other things, I would have done it on human behavior during team building. because it's so important. Now, with that said, you got to be prepared and you got to be organized. If you're not prepared and organized, you have a lack of it, unorganization can be unsafe for the girls. Something could happen, somebody can get hurt, and we never want that. Girls can get into trouble. They're going to get bored. They're unwilling to participate in future activities, so they're not going to be all about it. Team building, if it's not good the first day and not really fun the first day, it's not great. So I always start when I'm doing activities with them, make sure it's really fun. I write it out. I decide what activities I'm doing, what day, and how I'm going to do it. I write down the name of the activity. What materials do I need? Is it group task? What is it going to do from us? Is it communication? Is it this? Is it that? I do learning objectives. I make sure I put down every safety point I need to. What are some commands, some variations to the activity in case the kids are really good? How do I make it a little harder? And then some debriefing idea, because running an activity is one thing, but it's so important that you debrief after. Everything is about them getting something out of this. So they can get something out of it and still have a lot of fun, and it'll be very effective. What I feel is very important is challenge by choice. Each individual can choose their level of participation, either physically or emotionally. We don't know why somebody doesn't want to participate. A lot of times you will have a kid sit back, and sure, you'll get the teenagers, or you'll get some kids who are like, nah, I'm not into this kind of stuff. But in reality, there could be some really solid reasons a kid doesn't want to participate. So I say everybody's got to participate at some level. The level could be you supporting it, you assisting me. Some activities they could do a stopwatch. There are different ways they can support, but it's really important we understand why kids don't want to participate, or we're adults in that matter, and we don't force everybody to do it. So let them choose the level of how they do it. You're always going to encourage the highest level, but if they go a little bit further, give them that ability to do so. You want to consider there's 3 zones. There's comfortable. I'm definitely comfortable doing this. This is a little stretchy for me to do it, and oh my God, I'm panicking, I don't want to do this. So we really want to shoot for the stretch. If you can shoot for the stretch, the kids are going to be a lot more comfortable. So set the stage will also include having goals. You want them to be there, be here, be in the minute. I tell my kids that all the time. Cell phones drive me crazy. They have access to each other all the time, but in meetings, if we keep them really active, they're not looking at those phones or playing games. So be here, have fun, speak your truth, be honest about everything, keep them safe at all times, and make sure they're keeping each other accountable for safety, and then be open to outcomes. It's very important. What I do is start my program by telling all my kids about 5 stages. I use my hand, and I have everybody hold up their hand. So if everybody can hold up your hand for me. Okay, so we start with our thumb. So thumbs up. I'm often through my entire program saying, kids, how you doing? And looking for those thumbs up. Sometimes I'm getting and sometimes I'm getting but most of the time I'm getting the thumbs up. The kids don't see each other around the room because you're asking for a quick response. So if they have that thumbs up or somebody's going like this, I'm watching it a little closely to find out what's going on, but I love the thumbs up. Second is I ask my girls to point to somebody. Point to somebody different in the room. If you're pointing to somebody in the room, then it's more accusatory or something. So we never want to point fingers. What I have my girls just turn their hands. If one finger's pointing away, what's happening with these other 3 fingers? They're pointing right back at you. So if you're going to point to somebody else, those fingers should be pointing back at you. Let's keep that away from that. So we have the thumb, we have the pointer, we have the, well, we'll pass that. We're not going to talk about that. Then we have the ring finger. The ring finger is commitment. I ask all my girls to stay committed, to be a part of it. Let's act together, work together. And lastly, it's the pinky swear. We're going to swear at all times that we're going to stay as safe as possible. We're going to take care of each other. And again, I'm responsible for their safety, but I make sure they're responsible all the way right up front. So you begin after you talk about the stages and you've planned and prepared and you're all set, you have to choose your areas of focus. There are so many different areas of focus, and I'm going to throw a couple just areas out there. Choose that focus based on the purpose of your activity. Make sure your activities are very, very age appropriate, please. There are some activities that you can make less and some that you can make much higher based on how you make that activity work. And I'll go into that again in a little bit. So we have warm-up activities, name games or get to know you activities, listening skills, communications, We have trust, cooperation through teamwork, problem solving, creative thinking, and decision making. There's other ones out there as well, but those are the focus. So I decide which one I'm going to do every day. I could do 2 or 3 on each one, or I can mix and match however I want to do. By just doing this and making sure we divvy it up and making them sure they're a lot of fun, I can get what I need across. So that's always a great thing to do. Now, one other thing before we move on topics is I just want to say, thanks, CY. What's important is how we encourage kids to do stuff. So I really start with minimal, very minimal rules and regulations, as little as I can to keep them safe. And then if I have somebody in the group ask me a question, I tell them, you ask me a question, I'm going to give you another rule. So you can have 1 or 2 rules and figure it out on your own, or you can keep asking me questions and I'll give you more and more rules. By giving them a few rules and not throwing so many on them, they'll start asking each other questions. Why not let themselves make their own rules? As long as they're safe, it's okay with me, however they do these activities and how they do them. Safe, let's get to the goal, talk to each other and make your own rules. But if they don't, I make them. And sometimes I'll make them a little crazy. I'll make them do it quiet without talking, or I'll make them do it on one leg, or I'll make them do it twice, or I'll give them a stopwatch and do it in time. So as they get older, I definitely make it just a little bit harder on them, but really getting them to think through these activities. It's extremely important. Thank you, CY. Okay, so debriefing. I said it before and I'm gonna say it again. You can play these activities and they are so much fun. But if you don't do something about it and get them thinking and talking about it and getting the insights for each person and what it means to them, it doesn't really help. So when I do my debriefings, I start asking people, how are you addressed? Are you listening? Was everybody listening? Are you working with each other? How was everybody working together? Was it orderly, respectful? Was it differently for everybody, or was it a lot of confrontation going on? How did people interpret the instructions? Did you get the minimal, or did you need more and more help? I'm always willing to help with that direction and I can offer it, but staying quiet and see where they go, that's where it goes, and it ends up being a lot of fun to see them. And as they get older, it's really crazy how fast they pick stuff up. I might even do stuff if I have them through the years getting older, doing the same activities that are still fun, just making them harder as they go. And then how do people influence each other? That's really important. So that's some generic questions, but what we can do is talk about how they get closer and closer. We want to talk about roles, alliance, receptiveness to new ideas. Are we looking at body language, nonverbal, verbal communication, facial expressions, and the way people, their bodies are really tells you a lot about the activities. So we want to make sure we're looking at the whole picture of how everybody's acting, and ask them those questions. How do they feel that was going on? I'll often have a kid say, oh, people were making faces when I was talking. And then a kid might explain what those faces were. And in reality, the face wasn't about them at all. It was about something they were thinking in their head. So debriefing is key. And these are all receptive and important things to do. So there are sample questions I put together with each one. Again, I'm just going to run through a couple of them under each title, because you are getting these slides. And when you decide your activity, you can revisit these questions. And there are only some questions. There are so many questions out there. So starting with communication, if my activity involves communication, how quickly did somebody speak up and when? You ask the question. Notice this question is open-ended. There are questions in life that we can say closed questions and open, and there's times when we want both of those answers. If you're going to get a closed question, you're going to get an answer like yes, no, blue, red, green, true, false. I'd much rather have an open-ended question where I'm asking the girl something that expects some kind of a response. I never ask for everybody's response. Sometimes you might need to do that. I'm not saying that's wrong, but sometimes it's really just pushing the envelope too much. It's repetition, which you don't always need. You got to know the good balance. And sometimes it's just overkill. The kid feels like they're saying too much. I mean, I don't want to be picked on. So you have to choose. You got to know your audience. Sometimes you're going to ask them all. Sometimes you're only going to ask different questions to different people. Other questions where the instructions clear. Did you understand what I was looking for? Did you listen or did you follow, and why? Critical. Why are people following and why are some listening? And you can encourage the next activity for it to change. I kind of take notes on some of the responses and try to get more kids engaged in different ways. Again, body language, did you notice yours? or did you notice others? That's a key question I really like to ask, because people aren't aware of their own body language, and it's really critical when we learn about acceptance and working together. And was it easy? Well, more correctly, were you able to adapt being able to speak or see, or not being able to speak or see? There are many activities that we have that kids are in a straight line, and it's really set so that one side can't hear or see what the other side is doing, and that's purposeful. They hear directions, they got to figure it out along the way. So communication, these are a bunch of questions that could be asked. If we can go on, decision making is another one of those topics that I said. Were decisions made in an efficient and or empowering way? What was the criteria? What criteria did these girls use? And what decisions did you make as an individual versus as a group? These are questions we ask them. Obviously, you got to choose verbiage for their age group. So make sure you fluctuate that. But that would be the way we would do it for that. For creative thinking, how did you come up with your ideas? Did you share your ideas? Why or why not? Some of these are repetition, as you can tell. What behaviors contributed or hindered your creativity? And how did you react different to different ideas? So they're all good ways for creative thinking. If you're working on teamwork, did your team work together? And sometimes the answer is yes, and sometimes the answer is no. What roles did people do or assume, and which ones did you do or assume? How did you get away? How did you participate? Did you get your way, I should say, and how did you participate? A lot of people get frustrated when people don't take their way and everybody listen. Well, how did that make them feel? Sometimes they need to be heard, and we should encourage people to listen to them. And sometimes it's okay. I think Pat referenced it before. You have one who rarely fails. And rarely people don't listen to, but as you grow and you get these kids doing team building, our girls are just going to be more and more empowered to speak up, and some of them are going to want their way. That's why I try to change some of the things and associate things to what different girls do, so it's all different along the way. And then where in life, well, not job or career, do you limit or have a definition of your team? And so what else would you look at? So I asked the girls themselves. This is probably my least favorite question. It's more for an adult, but you never ask. You don't know the information. So it is a topic you could jump into if you wanted to for teamwork. Diversity, this one, Girl Scouts is so diverse, so we often don't have to deal with this, but I do have many leaders who say it is an important thing. So what type of diversity was present? You will have to change how you do that. When I asked that question last time to a group of juniors, their diversity was height, mostly. I had to deal with the taller people, different than the shorter people, the younger people, and a little more than the older, and these kids are 6 months apart, so it was interesting to hear that. But it is just, diversity is what it means to them. It doesn't have to be what the true definition of diversity is. So what assumptions do you have about people or whom you're working with? They assume always that they're quiet people. Again, not my idea of diversity, but that's what comes up for the girls. The quiet people aren't going to speak up, and sometimes they get totally surprised and jump out there and they're going to talk. And what was similar and different about everybody? So are people having the same problems or not? So that's often there. People development is another skill we can have. And what did you notice about how other people participated in the activity? What did you admire or want to encourage? Or yourself want to replicate? Did you notice somebody else doing something and it's something you want to do in the future? Can you support people to optimize what's going on for them? How effective was feedback and guidance? So were each other giving each other good feedback, and were each girl helping each other and giving them guidance? And did you have any personal pitfalls? I always ask the girls for their personal development, did you feel like you could have done something differently next time, or encourage somebody else to do something differently this time? Making sure they understand it's all about elevating each other. So I want them to elevate themselves, but elevate each other. And if we put that responsibility on them, you'll be very surprised how they're going to come forward for you. Now, influencing is the last one that I wanted to talk about here. Questions like, did you ever think about how you get your way? All right, so you're going to have some kids who are going to push, 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 and we don't want them all too pushy, but then we're going to have other kids who are going to sit back and not going to say anything. Are you aware of how you influence others? And this is a very good question. It really makes them think. I give them the time to think. When I ask any of these questions in any of the sections, I don't let them off the hook so easy. If I have a group of people who are not answering, well, then I'm going to take it and I'm going to throw some words out there and make it go from there. If I have to, I'm going to take a lot of sheets of paper and I'm just going to write one word on it, hand it to each person. And then if they're not doing good feedback, I'm going to ask them, I want you to take that sheet out. Take that sheet out. Now let's do it together. I want you to say something about that. Once we do that once or twice, I think they get in the flow of good feedback. So that's important. Now, moving away from debriefing, we talked a lot about debriefing. We talked about a lot of different questions. Again, I'm really, really encouraging it because it is the key to all team building. And when we do the part B eventually, we will make sure we do a little bit of debriefing so you can see it actively being done. Here in the next couple slides, I'm going to throw up some topics for you. Topics and activities. These are actual names. We can't review them all. I will review a couple, but you can't review them all. But before we can show them to you in a part B of this presentation, I wanted you to know that these are the exact names of the activities, and you can Google them. And when you Google the activity, you write team building activity knee tag. It'll come up and it'll give you a very distinct way you have to do it. So here's how I broke out my stuff. We talked about these being different topics. Warm-up activities, I like knee tag, blob or amoeba tag, believe it or not, it's a lot of fun. Mission Impossible. Name games, you have a ball toss name game, me, you, me, and Peekahoo. If nothing else, that should encourage you to come to a part B just to hear what that is. Get to know you games are critical. You think get to know you games are only when they don't know each other's names? Nah. If they don't know each other's names, you can move so much further. There's categories. I love categories. Categories also called by some companies clumps. So what happens is you throw out a word or something you want them to do, and they have to gather with other girls. You have to have a minimum of 10, but it's really great for 20 to 50 people. So you'll throw out something like, how many siblings do you have? And they have to find the whole group and get together. Everybody who has one, they're a single person, they get together. If they have two, they get together. I have 7. There's 7 of us, so I rarely have somebody in my category. But if an individual's alone, if I ever find an individual is alone, that's the category I jump in as the facilitator. So that day, if there's somebody who only has 4 siblings, I'm in the 4 sibling games. If there's somebody who likes, let's say, favorite ice cream, everybody can get together for the favorite ice cream, then group together for favorite ice creams, cats, dogs, what type do you like? Whatever it is, you want them to group together or cluster together with that. And that way they get to know each other and they see that they have a lot of things in common. This or that's fun. This or that is you put together a line. I want a straight line of everybody. When you have a straight line, you have to choose a this or that. You might not like either one of the things, or you might think one's, you got to choose. So I'll say vanilla or chocolate. If it's vanilla, you take a couple steps to the right. If it's chocolate, you take a couple steps to the left. Look around, see who has the same thing, get back together. Then I'll say swimming or hiking. Any kind of a thing that gets them split into 2 different things, but they've got to make a choice. Again, the whole goal of that is to associate, get the kids to know each other, and then they'll talk a lot more. A lot less clicky when you do something like this. Have you ever? Have you ever's fun. You put everybody in a circle. You could use a rubber dot, and if you don't have them, you could use a paper plate. Pretty easy. You put a dot, everybody stands in a big circle on that dot, and then you throw out something. Have you ever been in the ocean? Anybody who's been in the ocean has to leave their spot, run across or walk quickly across the center of the circle and get another dot. So everybody's moving. You get a little harder where you might only have a couple people. You might say, who's been to Disney? And you might get very few people going across. But it's just, again, to associate and get these kids to see that they have a lot of things in common. Kids, adults, it's always a great activity. I think we run a little slower as we get older, but it is a great activity at that, and we enjoy doing it all the time. So some other things, listening skills, Captain's Coming. We'll talk about that one in a little while because that's one of my absolute favorite. And telephone. That's there, listening under listening skills. Communication, blind light up, minefield, puzzle games, trust exercise. We have trust falls, and I'm not talking falling from something high, just leaning back into somebody else's arms. Electric fence, blind walk. Cooperation through teamwork, stepping stones, mass pass, turnstile, problem solving. We have Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. That's my favorite with adults. Really makes them think and work together. We have pipeline, creative thinking, key punch, tennis ball challenge, lost at sea, the great egg drop. And again, a lot of these, we're just throwing them out there so you can see them. And you will have the ability to look them up in Google until we can get to you and show you part B where you'll see some of these activities working. Now, here's the thing. I talked to you before, and we're going to send you a blank form, a template, so you can write everything down. Here's the one called Stepping Stone, and I'm not going to review it all totally. I just want you to see that the activity is there and that Stepping Stones is something that you would write up, making sure you have what materials you need. You need one little foam disc, and you can really play with that a little bit. You could use a piece of paper. You can use anything. A lot of these activities really are minimal things that you need. Talks about a setup, a group task. For this group task, it wants to tell us how everybody's going to participate and how you have to set them up. What are our objectives? So Stepping Stone is good for problem solving, creative thinking, communication skills, cooperation through teamwork. Then we're going to talk about procedures and safety. How safe is this? What kind of variations and commands we can have? And then debriefing ideas. So that's just an idea of it. I know you can barely see it, but we'll send it to you. You'll get the whole thing in the after paperwork, so you'll be able to see it and really get to look at it well. What I do want to go into a little more detail is Captain's Coming, because I think I have enough time. So we're going to play with this a little bit. With Captain's Coming, I want to give everybody a chance to play and see what's going on. So what I'm going to do is ask everybody, we're going to give you directions. Captain's Coming is a listening skill. I do this with my girl often, because if I have them listening, it's ready to go and we're doing it. We are going to give you, and here you're going to see a lot of commands. You're not going to be able to do a lot of commands, so I am modifying it slightly, so we'll be able to do a different list of commands, but I want us to do this activity. So I'm going to ask everybody to keep their computers on mute, but turn on your video so that each of you can see a few people doing this skill. If you have the ability, step a few feet back from your computer. So let me give you a moment to do that. Everybody's going to see a certain number of people. So if you're stepped away from your computer, I'm going to ask you to follow some very simple directions, and it's going to take some listening. I'm going to give you 1, 2, or 3, and then we're going to review them, and then we're going to add some on until we can get up to 6 or 7 different skills. Okay, so everybody ready? I see nodding heads. Thumbs up. All right, people, thumbs up. Sweet, good job. All right, so if I say the words to you, Captain's Coming, I want you to salute and stand at attention and stay there. You stay there until I say the word at ease. At ease is just like you would see some kind of a sailor. So you're going to be at attention. If I say at ease, you put your hands down as if they're behind your back and you stand there at attention, at ease, separate your legs a little bit. So let's try it again. Captain's Coming. At ease. Captain's Coming. At ease. Excellent. Good job. You're all doing awesome. All right. If I say to the ship, I want everybody to take 3 steps to their right. So to the ship, 3 steps. Some of you are off the screen. Okay. If I say the word to the island, you're going to take 3 steps to your left. Excellent. I'm doing mirror image here, so if I get it backwards, I'm sorry. Okay. Captain's Coming. To the ship. Excellent. To the island or shore, either one. And at ease. Good job. Yep. All right, good job. How's everybody doing? Can you hear me good? Thumbs up. All right, let's add another one. If I say swab the deck, I want you just to take a broom as if you're swabbing the deck. So swab the deck, everybody. Uh-oh, Captain's Coming. To the ship. To the shore or the island. Captain's Coming. At ease. Good job. All right, everybody, excellent. If I say there's a mermaid, I want you to put one leg out just a little bit. I want to throw your hand on your hip, and I want you to say, hi, sailor. There you go. Good. All right, let's do that again. Mermaid. Captain's Coming. At ease. To the ship. To the shore. Captain's Coming. At ease. Excellent. If it's chow time, I want everybody to sit there, look intense, and you're going to go like this. Chow, 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 chow. Excellent. All right. Chow time. Good job. Okay. If I say lifeboat, you can stop. If I say lifeboat, I want you to pretend you're rowing. Pretend you're rowing. All right. We got them all now? You think we got them all now? All right. Let's start at the top. Captain's coming. To the ship. To the shore. At ease. Swab that deck. Good. Mermaid. I see a mermaid. Hi, sailor. Lifeboat. Row it up. Row it up. Row it up. Chow time. Captain's coming. At ease. All right, great job. So when we're considering these activities, you can go further and further, faster and faster. Eventually, you can give these girls a variation. Now, right now, I'm saying to the ship, to the shore, and I'm pointing because we don't have a lot of room give with our cameras. But with our girls, I stop giving any prompts and I don't do it with them. So in the beginning, I do it with them. And as time goes on, I don't do anything with them. Once they're really good at this, then we play it as Simon says. Simon says you stay at whatever activity I say until I say at ease. So if I say captain's coming, they're all saluting and they wait and wait and wait and wait until I say at ease. If I give another clue, if I say to the ship while the captain's coming, whoever moves, they're out. All right. So if I say chow time and they start to eat, but I didn't say at ease, they're out. So whenever I need to, I got the captain's coming because that stops them in their footprints, wherever they're at. It stops them in one place and keeps them where I need them to be. And then I'll say at ease and get them going. This is a great way to do it. You can also change it up a little bit by saying when you're doing a lifeboat, you want the lifeboat, you want 3 people in a line. So they've got to group together and start working with other people. When you say chow time, I want 4 people sitting in a circle and eating lunch together because nobody wants to eat alone. So 4 people will get together and they do that. Another one we say is sailor overboard. If you have sailor overboard and I'm yelling that, everybody's looking. They're looking. They're looking. But with that case, I'm going to say sailor overboard, you've got to get a partner. The partner in the front kneels down while they're looking and the partner behind put their hand on their shoulder and then they look behind them and everybody's looking for the person overboard. So there's definitely different variations you can do. Now, this is how all these team building activities can be. So everybody can sit back down, relax, sit back down a little bit. If we can pull the PowerPoint up a little bit back, we should be on our summary page for now because we are starting to wind down. I got 5 minutes left. Yay. Okay, next slide, next slide. Perfect. Thank you, CY. All right, so thanks for everybody doing that. When you have a whole group of kids, and you only need 10 to make that happen, but if you have 20, 21, I like even numbers. Sometimes if you can get a 1 in there, that's perfect too, because divisible by 3 works really well. But it really gets everybody up and running, and the kids love this activity. Some of my girls want to run this activity all the time, and what we do is we see which group is the winner. And when we do that, we start to give prizes for everybody, but we can change the activity up so that everybody is getting something as we go on. I love team building so much that some of our meetings, we're able to, when you have your investitures or your fly-ups or different activities, we'll actually put a part of the presentation, 1 or 2 of the team building activities so that the parents can actually see what the kids do. And if we want to really get good at it, at my last fly-up, since they were going to cadets and some of the parents had been there for a really long time with us, what I chose to do is have the kids do it, and each kid had to pick a parent in the audience and bring them up, and we had them doing it with us. So that was such a blast. We had a great time. Now, I only had an hour with you guys. So in summary, you want to play safe, play with a purpose, be productive. Let the girls have fun, and you have fun too. Like I said, I laugh through this whole thing. Most of the time, I have a really great time with this activity. So I want to thank everybody. I want to thank you for all you do. Being with the Girl Scouts so many years. I've been a Scout since I was 6. I've always admired my leaders and the staff of the Girl Scouts all the years that I've been growing up, working at camp and everything, Girl Scout camp, really being a part of it. I'm a part of a Girl Scout family. My mother has almost 60 years in, and I brothers and sisters were all a part of the Girl Scouts. So I want to thank you for everything you do. It's so important for us, your girls, in the future. I want everybody to be safe out there. It's crazy times, very crazy times. So thank you. Be safe. And back to you, Dina.
Thank you, Kathleen. Thank you so much. Couldn't have said it better myself. So thank you for giving us that wonderful presentation tonight. This does conclude our presentation, but we're not done yet. So please hold on. I got something for you, right? We got something we wanted you to do. But let me get back through the formalities. I want to thank Kathleen for leading this informative and creative presentation. Stick around for a minute because we need you to help with a fun activity at the very end. And first, I want to remind everybody, as we've been promising, to expect an email in the coming days with this presentation deck, the handouts, and directions on how you can access this recording tonight that we've made to add to our training resources. And finally, to our audience of Girl Scout volunteers, it means so much for you to be with us in this unprecedented moment. Thank you for attending. Be well, stay well.